The race is on to develop an effective vaccine against the coronavirus, and a major push behind the effort is President Trump's Operation Warp Speed. Joining me now is Dr. Scott Atlas, who's on the President Trump's coronavirus task force and is a special advisor to the president. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Atlas. Honored to have you here. Operation Warp Speed, give us a sense on what this is. I read it's going to be pushing forward to 100 million doses of a vaccine by the end of the year. Is that the goal?
Yes, hi Eric, thanks for having me. Well, I mean, everything is proceeding, as far as I know, without a hitch, and that means that the data is being accumulated. The Data Safety Monitoring Board has to look at it, but in the meantime, Operation Warp Speed is set up so that manufacturing is concurrent, regardless of the the work of getting the data done, getting the clinical trial done. There's been over 70,000 subjects now entered into the first two vaccines that are being evaluated. And of course, there has been no report of any kind of safety issue, by the way, which is very good news for everybody. We're waiting to see the efficacy side and also, of course, the readout of the safety in detail. But you're right, the plan is, and there will be, as far as everyone is understanding, 100 million doses by the end of the year. There will be enough vaccines generated to have available a vaccine for every priority high-risk person, every first responder, all of the typical sort of high-priority people, no later than January. And of course, as has been said many times, that the vaccine will be being delivered within 24 hours after its approval. So things are going well. I think there's another very important part of Operation Warp Speed, which I just want to make sure I bring up to everybody, and that is that the drugs, the treatment for the disease, there are two emergency use authorizations that have been submitted by the Regeneron drug and the Lilly drug, and they are being evaluated. I don't know any update on their evaluation, but that's very good news, because these are drugs that prevent people who are early on from needing hospitalization.
Mm-hmm. Doctor,
I don't know if you've heard the preliminary data, but it's very promising.
Doctor, so we'll watch the president leave a hospital, some to the dismay of the left, and get back on the campaign trail. Some of the drugs were experimental, some of the drugs were not approved. He got approval to take them. Will the cocktail of drugs that seem to get President Trump back on his feet very quickly, will that be available, that concoction, the cocktail recipe, will that be available to the American people?
Sure. These are the drugs that I mentioned, the Regeneron and the similar drug by Lilly. These are sort of monoclonal or polyclonal antibody drugs. But the point is that they are submitted for emergency use authorization. It remains to be seen. Of course, they have to be approved. But the president said something very important when he said that he guarantees personally that the drugs will be available ASAP to every senior who needs these drugs, free of charge. So, I mean, there's an accelerated, pathway, of course. It has nothing to do with accelerating the safety issue, but the bureaucracy has been really sort of eliminated. I mean, we're in a pandemic here. It's not a regular situation, and everyone has to use common sense, but also the president's, his whole Operation Warp Speed is to accelerate these things, and they will be available, as soon as absolutely possible, pending their approval for emergency use authorization. So we're optimistic about that. Of course, it has to be evaluated.
Very quickly, sir, less than a minute or so, Warp Speed gives people a concern that may be pushed too fast. We're not pushing the FDA to approve something that isn't completely safe prior to making sure it is safe.
No, absolutely not. I think this is really an abuse of public power, really, to have people in the political arena or otherwise cast doubt on the safety. There's no safety measure that's been cut whatsoever. The U.S. has the safest drug and vaccine development in the world. There is no cutting of any corners with that. There's no pressure to do that. The pressure is the pandemic, nothing to do with politics. Everyone, I'm going to take the vaccine as soon as it's available. I can guarantee you when I can get it. And I think it's really heinous to make people afraid of something that could save their lives. I think nothing will be mandatory, of course. There will be no mandatory vaccine, but to get it available is a crucial step in ending the threat from the pandemic. There's no question about that.
We're going to leave it right there. Dr. Scott Atlas, thank you very much for your time.